Hey, and welcome back to the garage. So, if you're new here, my name is Brian, and this is my garage where I actually live in St. Paul versus my other property in Wisconsin that I often do videos at. We're going to do a little small project here today. Some of you may have already seen or know of my style here. This is the car that in an earlier video I hydrolocked the shit out of the engine and decided to make twisty pretzel type pieces with the connecting rod. What I'm going to do today is actually a bit of a shifter change up. Right now I have a kind of custom made PT cruiser shifter in here right now. So what I have at the moment is this kind of, I basically have a shift arm out of a PT cruiser that I cut to the length I wanted and welded to an existing original neon shifter. And while it is pretty nice in general, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm not as happy with it as I could be. Compared to one of my other neons, the jade colored one I have, it has a Mr. Gasket shift arm from like a 60s Dodge Charger or something. I got it at a swap meet. That one I had cut down, customized, and the shift knob I had for it is one of these cheesy generic little shift knobs that's white with a colored pattern, and it says, instead of fifth gear, it says effing fast. And at first I wasn't sure if I'd like it because the knob was a good bit beefier and meatier, but I actually grew to really like it, and at this point now the small knob just doesn't feel as comfortable. In fact, I have a knob in Alex's neon in her nitro yellow green that is the same brand. It's a bit beefier, and it says bye Felicia for number 5. The cool thing about this PT Cruiser one, though, is if I'm not feeling like I want to run this kind of aftermarket, that's not the right word, the kind of a light gray, it's not quite white shift knob, I can just pull it off, and maybe I'm feeling like a little bit of dark gray. Bam, there we go, dark gray. Oh, and for those who don't know, on these PT Cruiser shift knobs, they don't twist. They literally, oh, Christ, they just pull straight off. But yeah, there's a little tab on the inside that kind of locks in. And part of the reason for doing this PT rod instead of, just putting a ball on the factory neon rod is this PT rod is a much nicer polished look. And it kind of went for kind of, the theme of the car is kind of a quasi-vintage aircraft. I will have a video coming up soon for a bit of a toggle switch ignition control system instead of using a key. That's for future. But anyways, you can also see I've got this Mr. Gasket shift boot, which also has a rectangular cut hole that I kind of pushed through here. And that's fine and dandy. It's not a great fit, but then again, it's not really something you notice unless someone points out. So while I've been pretty happy with this, I want to make it better. So what we're going to do is I am going to take, here's my parts here. So here I've got another factory first gen neon shift arm that the factory knob is removed, and there's a roll pin here that I pushed out. And I'm going to take a 19 millimeter Craftsman. And we're just going to give her a little zip zang with the old death wheel and a little sparky with the Zeus machine and make ourselves a custom little shift arm. And then for the knob to attach, I have a 3/8 24 pitch bolt that we will, we'll figure out the right lengths, cut, weld, grind it down. And then this shift knob that I had gotten off of eBay, it's actually a 4-speed knob, which, I don't know, I just decided it would be kind of fun. We all know it's a 5-speed, it don't matter. Obviously, it says effing fast, which is a complete lie, obviously. It comes with one little threaded adapter. So the inside threads of this knob is actually M16 by 1.5, like a drain plug will fit. But that, is an option. But better off, the inside threads of the adapter comes with are the 3/8 24. And that will allow me some adjustability using this nut too, which will be nice. So it'll just be a matter of kind of zip zang, a little welding. Here's a shitty PT knob that somebody tried to twist off that I kind of use as a reference. You can see there's a sizable difference here between these knobs. So I'm going to get set up here. The real question is going to be kind of finding out the length we want. And I think the best way to find out the length is to take the one out of the car first, so we have a comparison. And I'll show you how we take this all apart. Alright, so inside the car, if you're new to taking the center console out of a Neon, I'll kind of explain a couple quick things for you. You're typically going to have about 4 Phillips screws, and depending upon the age of the Neon, you're actually going to have 4 10mm bolts that are kind of in the back here. Basically, you'd scooch the seat forward, and there's plastic covers you pop off, and then there's 2 10mm bolts on each side. And then you've got 2 Phillips screws down in the bottom here. Actually, maybe it's 4. You know, I have 4 in this one, but only 2 are used. This is a 2nd generation console. It could actually be 4 Phillips. And then you're going to have 2 Phillips in these front cup holders. So, in this case, I just have the Phillips screws in the back here because this is a really, obviously, badly installed 2nd gen console because I do everything half-assed. But the 2 screws hold it in there just fine. The front wiggles, but that doesn't really happen when you're driving necessarily, so whatever. I'm sure I could probably run screws in the front too, but I'm not exactly that detailed. So I'm just going to pop these screws out really quick. And I do have another video on my channel about installing the 2nd gen console that covers some of this information too, and it kind of shows what I do for attaching these screws with a little chunk of a 2x4, which is a really easy setup to do. So, Phillips screwdrivers out. I'm going to pull up the parking brake as hard as I can. I'm going to hit the safety for the remote start. I'm going to put it in gear here. I'm going to lift up on the back of this. And then I should be able to back in neutral. Kind of weasel it out. Probably be easier if you slide the seats back all the way towards the back seat. Kind of gives you a little more space. I didn't do that in this case. But so now we've got what we're looking at here for our shift assembly. So let's see, I'll kind of turn the camera a little bit here. So obviously, in order to take the shift boot off, you have to take the shift knob off first. Now on the factory Neons, to take the shift knob off, on 1st generation Neons, there's 2 tabs on either side. If you pull the boot down off of the shift knob, you'll see those tabs, and you can kind of pull them apart or pry them apart with a screwdriver, and you'll be able to pull the knob straight off. And obviously this PT one, it just pulls off real simple like. So that exposes that. The 2nd generation Neons, the knob actually pushes down and twists counterclockwise about, I want to say maybe 3/8 of a turn. It's not quite a full half turn. And then at that point, the shift boot is actually just attached to the assembly via some little push clips, of which you can lift it off. And so you'll have 1 clip in the front and 2 clips on the back that hold this in place. Obviously, for my goofy ass little Mr. Gasket shift boot, which is something they sell at O'Reilly's for, I don't even think it's 20 bucks. I actually just cut the factory shift boot and then ran some self-tappers on through. It's really ghetto, but I don't know, I kind of like it. So now I've got the shift shaft here exposed. And so what we've got is we've got a couple of things in our way that we've got to take apart. So let me get you on in closer here so that you can see what we're working with. So grab the camera. All right, and so we're gonna rubber. All right, so a couple of things here. Now, shift bushings. If you have booger bushings, as you can see, mine's actually not fully inserted, but whatever. And if you're doing this in the cold, you have to be really careful because these bushings are polyurethane and they hold on really tight, especially in the cold. So if you're doing this and it's cool at all outside, I'd recommend getting a little space heater in here or something and trying to warm up this area or get the car good and warm. That way this polyurethane is more pliable. If you don't, you could snap your shift cable if you're not careful. So in this case on this side, I'm just going to take the straight blade screwdriver and I'm going to put it up against the black plastic here. And I'm just going to see if I can't. Yeah, see, it's supposed to be all the way seated through, but the bushing's not pushed down all the way. And I'm going to work it off here if I can. With a bit of force. There we go. It popped free. And, oh, I see there's a little packet of, used to be ketchup that some mice had eaten up when this car was sitting. That's awesome. Fun. Now, the reason I say you got to be careful is you really have to be careful on where you're prying on these things. You want to be up against this part here. You do not want to pry up against the cable. Ask me how I know. The reason is you can snap that bastard real easy, and you can wind up with a situation like this. Here I have it snapped clean off of the cable. And what do you do when that happens? I mean, most people would just be like, I am fucked until I replace the cable, because suddenly now you cannot attach the cable to the shifter at all. And that typically happens on this side. But I have a workaround. Let me show you. This goofy little workaround right here. It is a little chunk of aluminum. It's got 2 little tiny U-bolts from the hardware store. And then I drilled a hole for the shift pin, and I stacked some washers and put a little clip on it. And this is my workaround to make the broken cable work. And it's been on here for over a year. The only thing I had to do is, because it was hitting in this corner, is you see there's a stud here that I cut with a grinder. That way it wouldn't hang up on it and it wouldn't give me any problems. This works surprisingly well. I mean, honest to goodness. So at this point, I just have to get this little clip off, which at this angle is a really strange thing to try to do. I really just use a screwdriver, you know, not be such an idiot about it. I'm just gonna tink, pop that clip off of there. One little washer, and then that cable is now free of the shift mechanism. And so what we need to do now to take the rest of this apart is we have 3 8mm nuts, and then we also have to pull out this pin. And so that's kind of where we're moving this cable out of the way. I generally avoid undoing that bolt, because then you got to kind of adjust it, because then your side to side is goofy if you do. To take this this piece out, which is not hard, you've got a little circlip right here, and I want to spin it. And then we're just going to take the screwdriver and we're just going to kind of weasel it on out of there, which is apparently not easy to do while holding a camera. Hang on one second. Alright, I managed to lift the little clip out with the screwdriver. There it is. Hard to see. I know it's a little dark in here. And so we're going to set that guy somewhere where it's safe. And now this assembly is actually going to push out of here. So I'll just go ahead and use the screwdriver to help me here. And it's just going to kind of pop out this way. And then I can kind of rotate it a bit and we can just slide it out. And then this little spring-loaded clip is going to come out too. And I'll show you that here once we get it apart the rest of the way. And there's a little bushing here, but that can just stay in. Nice thing is you can lube all these parts up while you've got it apart. So there is that little arm. And when you're reinserting it, you're going to actually have to twist these springs apart. That way the ball goes in between them when they're like that. And that basically provides a more solid left to right spring-loaded action versus relying on the transmission to transmit that. And Neons are fairly well known for the fact that the transmissions actually shift really nice and in general feel pretty good. They're a pretty good cable system. Chrysler actually designed this shift mechanism system in 1990, and they started putting it in production on their K vehicles and minivans and things, anything that had what I would refer to as the Japanese transmission. The Japanese transmission being the one where reverse is to the right and back, versus all of the other manual transmission front-wheel drive Chrysler K platform vehicles, which had a Getrag transmission, where it was like the German stuff, where you would lift up or push down and you go all the way to the left and forward like a Volkswagen. So just kind of a fun little tidbit there. So at this point now, we just have to take these nuts off. There we go. So I got all 3 nuts off, and so at this point, this will come right up, just like that. We'll set that aside, and then we can lift the shifter. It's got the extra washers on it. We'll just plop those over there, and now we have our shift assembly. So let's bring this guy over to the bench and take a look. All right. So, as you can see in my very dirty workbench here, we have the shift arm, and this little plastic piece simply will push off. It just kind of separates and slips off of the ball, like so. And then I can just set this aside. And then for the moment here, dropping my balls. I'm just going to clean off this grease for the moment, just so that it's, out of the way, because I'll put fresh grease on this when I reassemble it anyways. Actually, who am I kidding? I'm not going to be putting this one back in the car. I'm going to save this one for future use. I'm going to be putting the other one in its place. So this is just kind of, that way it's not all greasy and nasty. So you can see, so there's my really bad weld job there, which I just kind of ground down. And that was all I did. So, and of course the key to when I was doing this was making sure that I had this flat spot straight in the 6 o'clock position, like that, as best I could. That way the knob would be on straight. Because if you're like me and you're bothered by knobs, if it's got a pattern on it, you want it to be straight. But yeah, so what we're going to do here first is we're going to try to figure out, well, what's the length that we want to work with? Because we want to try to match this up nicely. So for example, here's the factory arm, which is shorter, but the factory knob is a good bit taller. So the height was pretty similar. In fact, this actually was a little taller at first, and I recut it and redid it because I wasn't happy with it. Just kind of as a little example there. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to cut this bad boy. That way we've got our starting point, and then we'll take a look and see how much of the wrench we need to cut, and we can take a measurement on this guy. And I think what I'll do for my measurement is I'll put one of the shift knobs on, and I'll measure from the center of the ball here to essentially the center of the shift knob to kind of get the overall length that I'm looking for. So I'm going to go hit this guy with the whiz wheel real quick, the death wheel, and then let's come right back to it. All right, so as you can see, with the help of my favorite shop tool, I went ahead and hacked that boy off, and I even put a little notch in it to presumably make it easier to kind of hold the shifter in place, or I should say that the wrench. So what I'm going to look at here, I went ahead and I put the shitty knob on for the moment, is we're just going to kind of look at what we believe to be center to center, which legitimately looks like 8 inches. Now, to be honest, I could stand to have this a little bit shorter even. I'm not a big fan of short throw shifters, but I do like shortening them up a little bit. A real short throw shifter obviously would be basically making this longer and actually raising the mounting point. But I really am just not really a fan of that. I mean, I like putting my arm down a little further, but I like the throw. It's satisfying. I mean, that's half the reason I like a manual transmission. And I mean, really, we could stand to lose half an inch, to be completely honest, and go like 7.5 would probably feel pretty good. I don't know, maybe 7 3/4. It's really hard to say. I was pretty happy with the length. I could be a little shorter, so we're just going to kind of have to see what's going to happen. So I think that the best way now to kind of figure out the length that I'm going to be working with would be to kind of mock up the pieces that are necessary here to install the shift knob. So if we take and thread our little adapters and whatnot together, let's just say it's going to be a little bit of a gap like that, and then thread this guy in here like so. And so now let's see, what kind of material are we going to be working with here? So if I want the center of this ball to be at 8 and the center of this guy at the start, we're actually looking at, now given we're going to be cutting the head off of that bolt possibly, no, I'm probably just going to shave it down, to be completely honest. So we're looking at, from the ball to the bolt, we're looking at about an 1.75 inches, let's say. So, and from the center of this ball to the opening I've made, it's about 6.5. So if we were to drop that down, I got to think here. It's like mathematics and shit. It's just, I think I'm going to have to write it down. All right, now that I've got my mathematicals done here, the shift ball with bolt, 1.75 inch, and then the ball in the center here to the point that I have available. What the heck was that? Apparently it doesn't like how close I'm holding it. That's 1.5 inches. So 4 3/4 inch is what we have available to work with as far as our shift arm is concerned. So what kind of meat do we have to work with at 4 3/4? Not bad. It looks like we're kind of right in the cusp of what we would want to work with there, having that kind of craftsman part sticking out. I'd be okay with that, really. I mean, we could just cut it there and there and just kind of go to town and see how it comes out, I just thought this might be kind of fun, and I know I can weld on these, and my welder is pretty garbage, so it doesn't matter too much, but yeah, let's give her a little snip and see what happens. All right, so here's what we got. I've kind of precariously perched it, but we actually have right about 8 inches, maybe even just a tiny bit shy, which I think I might just leave the way it is. I'm just telling myself I want to cut just a tiny bit more off. I'll probably cut just a little more meat off of this end of the wrench. But the other thing I did here too is I actually cut a little more off of this part, and I actually put a little notch in it, and I put it at a little bit of an angle, because if you notice here, this one's got a little bit of a swept back angle too. So this guy, I cut a little bevel in it, on the grinder. That way I can kind of fit it in there, kind of eyeball the way I want it, tack it in place, and if it's good, then I can kind of weld it up. But that has that little bit of that backwards angle that I was looking for. So I think this is going to be kind of sweet. So I'm going to cut a little bit more material off here, and then I think we're going to tack it in place. And be warned, my welds are terrible. I mean, they're disgraceful. But then again, I've only got $100 Harbor Freight wire feed. I'm quite poor, so it's about what we get, right? All right, so I've got her in place here. So let's see how this is going to work. It's not great, but I think we'll be all right. Just looks like that's going to hold in there, so let's just buzz her on in. The grinder will make me the welder I ain't. Hopefully. Like most things for me, there's zero guarantees that. God, that is terrible. But believe me, I've done worse. This is him working with what I got. And it does have, obviously, a little bit of a bend to it. Of course. I didn't really think of that. I should have tacked both sides. It's a little cattywampus now, but I guess we'll see if I can make that a little better. I don't know, let's reset this up. Well, I managed to straighten it out a little bit. I thought about cutting it and redoing it, but I'm like, you know what? That'll probably just make it worse. So we're just going to go for broke and see what happens. I mean, It's not like I can't redo it. It's just a Craftsman wrench and a bolt. I got more bolts. I got more wrenches. It doesn't really matter. Oops. Just fill it with weld. We'll catch it all with the grinder, right? Lock it. Oh yeah, that's just amazing. Grab the pliers. Loosen this up. Yeah, quality. Bird shit, lots of it. Bring the thunder. Oh yeah. I mean, it's like if we soak enough on and then grind her down, she might be all right, right? Just grind it a bit and see what happens. Okay, well, you know, for bird shitting on a ratty car, that's not too bad. You can see she's a little off center, but not really enough to notice or bother me, if I'm honest. You know, I can do a little more fine tuning with like the Dremel and get some of these little spatters off of there and whatnot. But this was just grinding it on the bench grinder, so honestly, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not gonna lie, that's not too bad. She's a little warm, but not too bad. Just a hair above handling temperature. So I mean, at this point, the next step is, you know, kind of clicky clicky, shovey shovey, sparky sparky, right? Let's see what happens. All right, I think we're kind of set up. I actually put a little bit of an angle on it, so that way it kind of angles towards the driver's seat just a little bit. I think that might be kind of nice. So this time we're going to do this right. I'm just going to try to tack it maybe twice and then flip it over and tack it again. So let's see what happens when we try to put a tack on it. Hopefully it doesn't fall over, which it might. Maybe I can just kind of hold it. Yeah, I'll hold it. Don't really know. Just trying to make sure we get a good tack there that's going to hold on to it enough. You know, not great, but enough to make this handleable. I keep bumping the damn tripod, moving the camera. All right, I think we'll be okay here. Forged in the USA. Oh man, that was a good. Oh yeah, see, I didn't tack it quite enough, but you know what? That's okay. We're gonna make this work. God damn it. Doing this with my left hand is a little weird. Let me flip it over and do some more on the other side. It gets a little more sturdy this time. Oh yeah. This will be just fine. Just like before, fill her up. More weld the better, right? I think my thought process here is you get it good and hot, you know, and it might soak in a little better. Penetrate. Quasi. Penetrate. Oh yeah. Let's she's warm but not too warm. Give her time. That'll soak in. Do some more on this side. Yeah, this is pretty bad, but you know what? That's okay. I'm just seeing these gaps and just trying to do my best to fill them so that when I grind them down, hopefully they're sturdy. Oh, that's such a booger. Wow. It's okay, the grinder will take it down. I don't even care. Good enough. As bad as my welds are, I haven't had anything come apart yet. I have friends who are welders who are absolutely going to laugh at me and call me a fucking dumbass, but that's okay. I know who I am. I'm an IT person, apparently. That's my profession for those who didn't know. I am the lead in the IT and support department of the company I work for. That's pretty bad, right? I mean, I am not a bright person. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, you know, I should really do some more in here because I just feel like that's not really soaked through. It's just terrible. Yeah, let's just add more to it. We're going to add more to it, and we're going to grind her some more, and everything's going to be just fine. Just fine. Oh, clamp down. Come on now. Give her some tightness. This is terrible, but we're going to do it again. Oh. That'll do. It's better in my book anyways. Let's grind her off and see what it looks like. Well, if you're new to the channel, you should know that I have extremely low standards. And in my book, this ain't half bad. Of course, it's blurry as shit because the camera doesn't want to focus. But, you know, it's because there's too much going on in the image here. I mean, it's bad. But for me, shit'll buff. Grind her down. It's good enough. And, I mean, when it's installed in the car, you're not even going to see that part anyways. The boot's probably going to be up to here or so, something like that. So that's fine. And you'll barely see that because the knob's going to cover, you know, the majority of it in a sense. But I don't know. We'll see. She's still pretty toasty, but she's not too hot to reinstall. So let's clean this guy out, put some fresh grease on it, and put it back in. I'm going to just wipe this out with a rag, make it nice and clean, and then we'll put some fresh grease in there. We'll probably use like a silicone-based grease, kind of like... I was kicking things over and making a huge fucking mess. Like this silicone grease here for like brake components and stuff. I think that'll be a good choice for this. So I wiped out the grease and then I just smeared a healthy amount of the dielectric or silicone grease on the inside there. So that way this can now go, put it through here, and then you just simply kind of snap it on over the ball. Like that. And then, you know, make sure it moves nice. And there we go. And there's actually a little locating pin on here that makes it so you can't kind of put it in backwards. Not that you really can in a sense. So we're going to bring the grease with us. And let's go install this thing in the car and slap the knob on it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the flash on here. There we go. And so you can actually see my repair to the clutch cable there. It's just pinched in really good and hard right onto the cable. It's actually never slipped out on me or anything, which is nice. Thankfully, there is enough space outside of the sheath that you can work with. So thank goodness for that. So simply to install this bad boy, I'm just going to plop it. Oopsie, got to put it in the right way like this. See, there's actually a little notch right there that this little pin is going to wind up sitting in. But we'll get this little plate back down over it here. And that'll kind of ensure that everything is kind of where it's supposed to be. Like that. And then we'll snug the nuts down. Just snug now. You know, they're small studs. You don't want to snap them. So now that that's back in place, we want to get this little guy thrown back in there. And you might need to re-grease it. In this case, this guy's pretty well lubed up already. So I'm not really too worried about that. So we just gotta slide it on in this bushing here. And like I said, the part that's kind of fun about these is this goofy little spring. So obviously, let's get her spun into place here. See if I can do this one-handed. So I've got it in about halfway. And so I'm going to try and open the spring up. Without getting it out all the damn way. Like I said, this is unfortunately not a easily one-handed operation. Especially because it just keeps walking out on you. You know, it's just kind of a little pain in the butt. Let me see if I can set the phone somewhere somehow. Now we're making an attempt. Nope. That clearly, you know, just not easy. Ah, damn it. You know, sometimes mounting the phone just ain't going to work because, of course, you just can't see it anywhere I can mount it in the car. But so basically, exactly like that, I've got the spring opened up so it's in between there. Then this guy, I gotta get the cable out of the way. So we're going to kind of pull this cable out of the way here. And then see if I can't. I'm going to move the shifter a little bit, which is getting stuck on the other cable. There. I should be able to bend this cable out enough to turn that and pop it in place. There. I tell you. Oh my goodness. And now, once it's in all the way, you should see that little slot right there where we can then attach this little clip. Now, let me see here. Where are we at? Right about here. And then you just push that little clip down like that. So this way, that is all attached now. At this point, we've got to get the cable squeezed onto there, which is not necessarily easy. You kind of almost got to get a pliers in there to squeeze it. I mean, I can get it on most of the way by hand, but probably not all the way. Oh, you know what we can do? We can take, there is, past this carpet here, this ledge of steel right here. So we can take our screwdriver up against the booger bushing itself. Want to get it so you can see here. Kind of like, oh, look at that. Just like that. Perfect. It just popped in place. Honestly, I think it's probably supposed to go through there a little further, but I'm not too concerned about that right now. So now, we just got to get, let's push this forward to put it into, well, that would be 4th gear, just so that I can get these washers stacked on. So, like I was mentioning earlier, let me reposition myself here. For this cable repair, here we go. We're going to take, I've got a couple of washers here, and I'm going to put two washers on like that, and then line that up like that. The washers are just to take up a certain amount of thickness. I'm going to put a washer on the outside, that way it doesn't constantly walk the cotter key around. And so we can put this little cotter key on like that. And now we have our little fix-up here. Yeah, before I couldn't get it into reverse because you could see where it would hit that stud right there. You know, reverse and fourth would be kind of funny, you know. So, but yeah, so that's, if your cable breaks, that's a really good thing to know about. So let's get the center console back on. But for this, I can actually put the phone on the damn mount. This is so much better than trying to do that damn balancing act of holding the camera with one hand and doing everything else. It's just, and especially in a tight space where you can't move around, God, it's just a disaster. Oh, there is a trick. So if you have a really tight e-brake and you have a hard time putting the center console in because you can't pull the e-brake up far enough, these e-brakes are self-adjusting and it's all built into this mechanism here. So what I can do is take the e-brake down, and on this side, you'll see where the cable comes up and it goes around this kind of rounded, half-round shape here. And with the e-brake all the way down, you can push on it and put slack in the cable for, like, if you were disconnecting the e-brake. So what you could do is you can push down on this mechanism and pull up on the e-brake, and you can max out the e-brake all the way up. And this will make it, because obviously you want it up as high as you can to get the center console on. That'll make life a lot easier. And in this case, when we slide the center console down, I'll leave it neutral for now. I think it'll probably be all right, to be honest. Then we'll just take our console, which is cracked, but whatever. I don't care. This is the beater anyways, so it's not like it matters. I also have cruise control buttons on my seat, which get in the way. That's okay. Small details. And then, of course, you're also going to fight the seat belts, so you need to lift those up, make sure they're out of the way. And then you got to get the damn e-brake in the damn hole, which is how the center console cracked to begin with. Getting it in the right damn spot. What am I doing wrong here, huh? I feel like I am up against something and I am just not getting anywhere. You know what it is? It's the carpet. The carpet up front here is going on the wrong side of this thing and it's bunching up. All right, so now I should be able to force it. Well, what in tarnation? I just turned off the e-brake slightly, I think. Yep, that I did. Oh, but I somehow landed it in the right spot. There she goes. Oh, damn it. You know what I just realized I forgot to do? Put the fucking shift boot on. God dang. I never said I was a smart person. And back out she comes. No, I'm just kidding. I gotta line up those little pins. Honest to goodness. So that's pretty good right there. She'll buck. Oh, getting warm with the jacket on in here. All right. Let's try this fucking shit show once more. Oh, dang. You gotta drop her down in here. Get her in far enough to get past the cruise control buttons that are attached to the seat, because I'm special. And then move the seat out of the way so you can kind of start to get her down there. Make sure the carpet's out of the way. Break part of the center console off the rest of the way. Fuck it, a little bit of Gorilla Tape will fix that. I don't care. And then, once again, fight the e-brake into the slot. There, holy shit. make sure the boot is kind of lined up in a way that it looks okay. And that just broke clean off. Whatever. I obviously ain't too concerned. At any rate, oh, now I can sit back down, take my damn coat off. Honest to goodness. This is how you don't get cold in your garage. If you do enough fucking work, you'll get warm anyways. So now, let's toss the knob on. Obviously, I still got to put the screws in the center console, blah, 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 but I can do that off camera. It's just a couple of Phillips screws into a piece of wood. I mean, you're not missing anything, right? So, let's get this little nut off of here. See if I fucked up the threads at all on the part that I welded. I think it's all right. There might be a little snug spot, but it's not too bad. Oh no, she's going on really good. Get down to the end there's a couple of spots, but you know what? We could just run her on home with the tiny adjustable. So we want to run her down as far as we can anyways. All right. And now this insert has got a little straight spot, so you can kind of snug it into the ball. So we'll spin her down. Then I'm just going to use the straight blade to kind of give her a twist to kind of lock the insert in there. So now we're going to spin her all the way down. And then we can back her off so that way the shift pattern is right. And then we can back this jam nut up against it and snug it up. What the hell? How did I get the wrench stuck on it? Come on now. Give her up now. Come on. Let go. Thank you. Ooh, yeah, I like that. That's good. That's a lot more like my Jade. Yeah, doesn't feel too bad. It's not too rough. This is pretty slick. Pretty happy with this. It's not the greatest work by any means, but I mean, I think it's kind of cool. But that's all I do is low quality bullshit. And soon enough, I'll have a video coming up for the aircraft themed toggle ignition system that I've done in the past on a truck and was awesome. And I've got it wired up, ready to go to be installed. And I'm going to make a special bracket to go on this radio hold mount part of it. The other part goes on the left towards the headlight switch. Eventually, if I get the PT Cruiser dashboard project that I want to do in here, it'll be kind of mounted up top. In fact, actually, I'll show you that really quick. So I have this plan that's going to involve, it's not labeled yet, but there's a switch panel here that'll be to the left, like near the headlight switch. And then the other switch panel is right here. And that'll be kind of in that stereo cubby. And once again, it's not labeled quite yet either. And the original plan is when I get around to doing the PT Cruiser dash idea that I have, this guy is going to go right in here where the power window switches normally are. Obviously, I'm going to have to modify the plastic a little bit, and then I'm probably going to drill some holes for mounting. But this will all be part of the ignition control, so that'll be kind of cool. So, hopefully, I managed to get that to fruition. I have a kind of cut and gutted partial PT Cruiser dash here that I have a plan for, that I want to hybridize the bottom half Neon and the upper half PT Cruiser. I think it'd be kind of neat. PT Cruisers, especially first gens, have that kind of vintage look to it that I think would kind of go really well with this car. So, with any luck, we'll make that happen at some time soon here. But at any rate, there's my ghetto shift exchange. Another little point I'll make out that is a really simple thing that you can do is if you want a shifter that feels better than the first gen shifter, and you can toss an aftermarket knob on it and, it'll look all right, with like a pinch knob, just get a manual shift arm out of a second gen. A second generation Neon, obviously it's going to bolt right in the same way, and their shift arms are a little bit shorter, and they've got a little bit more of like they lean towards the drivers a little more, and they actually feel, to me, a lot better than the factory shift arm with just an aftermarket knob on it or whatever. So that's kind of a simple thing. In fact, that's what I did in both of Alex's cars. She's got aftermarket knobs on a second gen shift arm, and it works good and it feels good. It's nice and notchy. So it's just kind of a little idea. So, but anyways, if you made it this far, thanks for watching. I hope it at least, besides teaching a few things like ways to repair that shift cable if you're in a situation where it's broken, and just in general how to disassemble that shift assembly, but maybe it kind of gives you a little motivation to try to do your own kind of goofy custom shifter. And there's a lot of different stuff you can do with pretty basic tools, and you can make something kind of neat and unique and matches your own tastes. So, but yeah. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you again next time.